I have a very small house that was gifted to me by my grandmother when she passed away. My brother and parents got money instead. Technically, at the time, they came out ahead. This was 2009 when the market bottomed out. The details of the inheritance were hashed out ahead of time. There were no surprises. This also wasn't a family home. My grandma got it when she retired, so it's not heirloom or anything. I got the house because I was her primary caretaker. I had chosen the school I went to specifically to do this, as well as stayed after I graduated. My brother was married at the time. His now ex-wife, Sarah, was much older and a well-established professional. Bro was basically kept. She put him through grad school, paid off his undergrad loans, demanded basically nothing of him. He wasn't a total louse. He put a lot of work into her house and kept up with the housework. But he had no ambitions, never learned to stand up on his own 2 feet, and never got a real job. But whatever. He was a house spouse, which is fine. Sarah is a wonderful woman, and if that's how it shook out, good for them. Well, he woke up one morning and decided he wants kids. Sarah had no interest. This was clear when they met, and since she was in her 50s, the window for trying to change her mind was way closed. He didn't prepare for this at all. He openly admits this. Caught us all off guard. So he's now living with my folks and not really making much of it. It's been a year. He's wearing thin on my folks. Before their divorce, for years, I talked to them about selling them the house. I moved far away and didn't get out there much, but I was attached. Selling it to them would have meant I would still get to use it, so I agreed to do so with a caveat. I had a friend living there until she graduated. That happened, so I sold the house to Sarah, who I'm still close to. Bro and parents are now making me out to be a grade A a-hole. They say I should have let him live there after my friend left. They implied that it's only fair because I got more than him when my grandmother passed. I pointed out that no, technically it was less, I just held on to it. Also, I was the primary caretaker. They all helped, I don't want to imply otherwise, but nowhere near as much. They then said I should have at least offered it to him first, but that's laughable. It's worth a lot, and since he can't afford to move out, how is that going to work? They're icing me out. Last time we talked, they said the right thing to do would be to give him half of the proceeds from the sale. I told them over my dead body. He had everything handed to him. He has no debt. Selling this house meant I could finally pay off my student debt, mortgage, and leave enough for me to be stable enough to try and start my own business, something I've wanted to do for ages. Doing that would have meant staying in my crappy job so he could just keep not working and leech off my folks. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. They want you to give him half of the money because they want him to move out of their house. Their problem, not yours. Not the a-hole. Your brother needs to stand on his own 2 feet. What did he do with the money your grandma gave him? If he spent it all, it's not your responsibility to bail him out. Pay off your student loans, pay off your mortgage, invest the rest, and enjoy the peace you get being debt-free. Don't give him anything. It sounds like he already has been given quite a lot by his sugar mama. Not the a-hole. Your grandmother left the house to you. You can do whatever you want with it. Giving some of the proceeds to your brother doesn't make sense. It sounds to me like your parents are looking for some support for your brother, and the only person who can provide that support is you. The underlying issue is that your brother will burn through money, and then you'll be asked to give him more. It's your house and your money. The right thing to do is whatever you want to do. Good luck. I, 29 female, have been raising my sister, 18 female, since she was born, if you ask me. She was born shortly after my 11th birthday, and since my mom had been woefully unprepared and incapable of caring for even one child, I ended up taking on a lot of the responsibility for her. My mother has always been irresponsible and selfish at best, and downright neglectful at worst. When I was 17 and had been working for 2 years, I decided to move out with a friend from school, and I asked my sister to come with me. I believed leaving her would have been cruel and dangerous, and I urged her to come. She did, and our mother never tried to get us to move back, though she did attempt contact several times as if nothing had happened. I did not let her reach my sister. Over the last year, my sister has started longing for a relationship with our mother, despite my best efforts over the years to give her any emotional and familial support she needed. They got in contact over social media, and my mother has convinced her of a narrative that I stole my sister away and she had always been wanted. My sister accused me of trying to hide her from her own mother and ruin the family. And since I did urge a young child to leave her mother and prevented further contact for years, I felt guilty. though I'm still furious over the conditions we once had to live in because of this woman. I didn't stop them from meeting, and I've been paying for them to go on dates of a sort, with meals and movies, or even a day at a small amusement park once. Now, she has graduated high school and is going into junior college, and for her graduation gift, she wanted a trip to a national park in our state. I thought it was going to be us, or some of her friends, and I agreed and asked who all was going, so I knew how much it would cost. She wants it to just be her and our mother, and she wants me to pay for it. I was astonished, and honestly hurt, that she didn't want to share such a milestone in her life and education with me, the person who has raised and loved her all her life. And I couldn't stomach the idea of paying for our mother to go in my place, when she has done nothing to support this child she made. I agreed to pay for my sister's half so she could go, but I refused to keep putting money in the bottomless well that is our mother. She agreed this was fair at first, but after talking to our mother about it, she was convinced I am trying to separate them further, and I am plotting to sabotage them since she can't afford to pay her own half. I just don't want to keep paying for the luxuries of a woman who couldn't even pay for all of my necessities as a child. Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay for both my sister and mother? Not the a-hole. You offered to pay for your sister, so the argument that you are trying to separate them makes zero sense. If your mother wants to have this trip with your sister so badly, she can pay her own way. As for your sister, I fear she will have to learn a lesson the hard way that you have been the parent she needed this whole time, and your mother is not the person she wants her to be. Not the a-hole. Your sister is an adult and can now experience the joy of living with your mother. I suggest a gift of sending her to live with mom. My guess is it will take a week or two for reality to sink in. I, Jessica, female 25, have two sisters, Tammy, 32 female, and Rita, 38 female. I live at home with my parents, as per cultural norms. I have a full-time, work-from-home job, and make $56K a year. I don't really go out, and I don't have any expenses other than my phone bill. With the help of my mom's knowledge on investments, I've been able to save up quite a lot. I want to buy a house as an investment property. My parents supported this idea and said they would help me with it. Background info. My parents are well off. My dad retired early due to a medical issue and just recently went back to work, so Tammy can have some more money. My dad makes around $100K, and my mom works 2 jobs and makes about $45 to $50K. Rita is married and is doing very well in all aspects of life. Tammy is not. Her job is lower paying than mine, and her husband was unemployed for a long time. Tammy owns a house. My parents gave her $100 to $150K to help her out. My parents also buy her weekly groceries and wash her clothes for her. Tammy is going through IVF right now. It is expensive. Regarding the house, I found a cheap house in a good area. My dad 100% supports the idea and thinks it's great. He is willing to give me whatever I need to help me out to buy it. My mom is now on the fence. When we had a more serious discussion about it and told my parents how much I had in my bank account, things changed. Side note, we have always been very open with my parents of how much money we make and spend. My mom then asked me in private if I would be willing to give $20K to Tammy. She said to help her with IVF bills. I immediately said no. Tammy and I do not have a good relationship. She picked on me when I was a teenager. I'm civil to her but don't like her. Then she asked me if I would put Tammy's name on the house with mine. My parents would pay her half of the house, but when I sell it, she would get half. I refused because I know Tammy will want to sell it sooner than I want to, because she needs the money. I also want this to be something that's just mine. My mom and her siblings are calling me an a-hole for not allowing my sister to have half of the house. My dad refuses to comment. My eldest sister tells me to absolutely not go in with my sister, as it will cause issues later on. Am I the a-hole for refusing to give $20K to my sister, and also refusing to allow her to have half of the house? Not the a-hole. Holy moly, what entitlement! If Tammy is not in a decent paying job and her husband is just back working, hopefully, the last thing they should be doing is spending money on IVF. Don't they think a child is going to cost money? You are 100% right that you should not give her money or half your house. The eldest sister is right. Stick to your statement. Not the a-hole. Your older sister is giving you very good advice. They are also not doing your sister any favors by helping her out so much while she has a husband that doesn't have a job. Your sister already has a house. Why does your mom want to own half of a house for you to be living in? Get the house on your own, and I wouldn't be sharing how much money you have anymore, since it looks like your mom sees your money as another bank to loan money to your sister. Not the a-hole. Why in the world would you give your sister half of your house when she already has one of her own? If your parents are willing to pay for her half of the house, why don't they just give her that money and leave you out of it? None of this makes sense. Putting her name on the house doesn't get her any money now, so it's not really helping her at all. Because it's a nicer area, we can sell it in a couple of years for a bigger profit. In the meantime, rent it out. They know if I sell it, even in 2 or 3 years, we'll get a profit from it. I have an older brother who I've been estranged with for a long time. Not even sure where or if he lives at this point. Don't really care. Apparently, when he was in his mid-20s, he sold some sperm to a clinic for easy cash. We know this because his spawn, Jake, 23 male, recently tracked my family down after taking one of those DNA tests. He was unable to contact my brother, no shock there, but found me on LinkedIn, reached out, and we met for lunch. Based on his message, originally I thought my brother knocked someone up and abandoned her, but at lunch I found out he was conceived using donor sperm of my brother's. He does look a lot like my brother did when we were younger, but based on his origination, I don't really feel any sort of familial bond if I'm being honest. I have my own family that I care about deeply, and I really don't need much more. I guess Jake is feeling somewhat of an identity crisis from not knowing where he came from, so he wanted to meet. When I met with him, I told him I would, though I feel weird about it. I did feel I should at least meet him to share the very limited info I know about family medical history. Luckily, we're pretty healthy, but I have had some extended relatives diagnosed with cancer in the last few years. So I told him that, but it was clear he wanted more. He asked about my weekend plans, and I told him I was on Easter duty and hosting an event with friends and family. He asked if he could come, meet the kids, and some other relatives. I told him, sorry, but that's too weird. I have no ethical qualms with sperm donation, IVF, or any of that, but I feel like it makes a difference that he was created that way. So I told him no, and that I don't want to pursue another meeting with him. He seemed upset, but left with no incident. Then, lately, he's reached out again, telling me that I'm treating him like crap when we are technically family. I told him no again. He wouldn't stop pushing, so I told him I don't consider him family whatsoever, that I was blocking him, and if he reached out again, I would speak to my attorney about a restraining order. My wife thinks I was too harsh to say those words, but agrees we shouldn't maintain contact. It'd be weird to have him meet our kids given the situation. My friend, however, says I'm being kind of an a-hole because Jake is clearly having an identity crisis, and I'm in a position to help. I have mixed feelings on that. I mean, not the a-hole for not feeling like he was your family because genetically he is, but he was raised with another family. I think the way you've worded this post is a bit a-hole because it comes across as very condescending and very judgmental as to how he was born. Not the a-hole, and I think these DNA tests are really messing up the whole thing of donating sperm or eggs. You should be able to donate completely anonymously. Not the a-hole for not wanting a relationship, but yes, the a-hole for how you handled things. If you had zero interest in a relationship with Jake, you probably shouldn't have agreed to meet with him. It definitely sends the wrong message. And telling him to his face that you and zero of your family will ever have a relationship with him is pretty harsh. You could have just sent him medical info over email and let him know you prefer not to meet. Generally, you made this much harsher than it ever needed to be. Secondly, do you speak for your entire family? Of course you don't need to have a relationship with Jake, but some of your extended family very well may be interested in meeting him. It doesn't seem at all like you gave the rest of your family that choice. Based on the way you described the situation, it does sound like you made no effort to be friendly or mince your words. So I'd say your wife's and friends' view on the situation is probably correct. You should ask your family if they wanted contact, pass along his personal contact info, and just personally block him rather than threaten him with a restraining order. My stepsister, and I use that term only to make this post easier to explain, is a single mom to a 2-year-old. She started a GoFundMe to help take her ex to court and make a better life for herself and her kid after his disappearing act made it impossible to get anything out of him. She's had a couple of people donate to her cause, but not a lot. I never donated. I have no intention of donating, and I'm hearing all about it from my mom and her husband, stepsister's dad, as well as my stepsister and her grandma. She and I have never been sisters. I kind of liked the idea early into my mom's marriage, but she is a crappy person. She uses people, but otherwise has no interest, unless you are one of the select few. But then she'll screw over someone you care about, like her old best friend who was with a nice guy, but my stepsister treated him badly, so she lost her best friend. A couple of times she pretended to be interested, and then she dumped me and made fun of me thinking we were anything. She generally ignored me after that, and I was fine with that. Ever since she's been down on her luck and has been struggling to support her kid, she's been thinking we could be sisters. But her and her kid are not my problem. My refusal to donate to her campaign is making me a target. She asked how I don't care about her kid, that I'm an aunt. My mom told me that we might not have been close before, but we are family, and no matter what she's done, don't I want the best for her child? I said I really don't think about her child, that her child is no different than any other struggling child for me. The conflict has become worse since her campaign has gained no added funds in a while, and she's close to taking it down. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Your family members are trying to guilt you into offering financial support to someone you have no interest in helping. If you give in once, the requests will never end. Tell them charity is an individual's choice, and if they choose to, they can donate more money. Not the a-hole. Your stepsister and her child are not your responsibility at all. Plus, GoFundMe takes a cut of all donations, so if you really want to donate, then giving directly to her would be a better option. Not that I recommend that. If anything, if you want to help the child, give your niece things she may need or want, but don't give money to the mom, as who knows how she'd really spend it. And again, it's not your responsibility.